Meeting will come to order. 15 minutes of public comment. If anyone wishes to
No one wants to hear me.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
There's obviously been a lot of conversation and concern about the Smoky Gardens topic. And so I hope that that there will be some, maybe you can each offer some information to clarify. There's a swirl of all different kinds of rumors around. And so maybe some clarification about which are true and which aren't. And then I would just like to comment that one of them regards the water rights. And my personal input is that I don't believe it's not wise to ever give away water rights. And so I'd like to enter that in for consideration.
Okay. As far as the water rights, correct me, these gentlemen right here will come up here in a little bit, but we have never owned those water rights. They have always been property of the wildlife fish and the state. We are simply allowed to use the water. In the bill that went through that Mr. Smith passed, it says that there's 237 acres of irrigated farm ground and 350 acres of dry land. And in that, the state will retain 300 plus or minus acre feet of water out of the 852 acre feet that was allotted for that area. And it's an agreement with the state that they allow us to put water into the Smoky from a diversion point that is not the Smoky Gardens. And so as far as any giving up of water rights, we're not giving up anything we didn't have anyway. The state owns those water rights.
So the county doesn't have any water rights ownership.
So we have no water right ownership. Is that correct? Okay.
Thank you.
Did we ever?
Did we ever?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. As far as when they signed the contract and bought that ground, it was all owned by the state and purchased from the landowners when they bought the ground.
What was the quick claim deed?
Steve, if the folks want to speak, they're going to have to come
You'll
to
have
the
to come.
podium. Announce your name. And come to
The
the
quit
podium.
claim deed is what that is it's a little complicated if you don't understand water rights, but they are diverting water from its original source to a third party or to Sherman County. The quit claim deed cleans up the act if for some reason something goes wrong with the water. The county is not liable for anything. The state is liable for it all. The quitclaim deed is just cleaning up so that, say, 15 years from now, the state and the county don't get along. Well, quitclaim deed says we can still get that water. We're not giving up any water rights. Again, correct me if I'm misstating that in any way or shape or form. So all it is just cleaning up to make it more open face to, it's a little, when you hear click claim deed and we're giving up something, well, we're not giving up anything we didn't have. And it just allows us to use the water with no liability to the county.
How did that go from 300 acre feet or whatever that figure was, 150?
That was agreements with the state of Kansas that, like I said, when we purchased this, there was 300 acre feet was what they'd retain. And of that 300 acre feet, 150 acre feet of it is given to Sherman County to maintain the Smoky Gardens water, while the state retains the other 150 acre feet, which, if in the case of emergency, they have that amount of water that they can give to us. But if we go over the 300 acre feet, then nobody gets any water. It's a little confusing when you first saw it, but it took Mr. Magno and I a little bit to get a handle on it to understand what was going on. But we've gone over it several times, and we've talked to the water resources from the state. Nathan Embick is here with Groundwater District number 4. I think he's on board with it. And I don't want to speak out in front of anybody, but we've tried to make this thing as open face as we can. Some of the things that, if for some reason we have a hole in the dam or something like that, the state is going to say, hey, you need to fix your dam before we're going to allow more water to come in, which is understandable. But at the same time, they're going to be able to say, you had the dam wash out, whatever it might be. After it's fixed, we can go up to 300 acre feet of water to refill it if that's what it takes. So,
What did it take to fill it? I used to have these figures, but I don't remember.
I think the first time what was 180 acre feet of water. Now, don't quote me for sure on that, but it's close. Mr. Emick.
Good morning, Commissioner Effort. I do serve on the board of directors for the Grand Water Management District Number 4. And a couple things I wanted to keep in mind of people is probably part of the confusion is that you have been consuming water to fill the Smoky Gardens up to this point in time. And the method that was done with to this point in time has been a temporary term permit that allows them to do it, but it was in no means an actual water right that the county had. It was clearly a temporary authorization from the state. The other thing that everybody needs to keep in mind is that when it comes to water rights, there are different beneficial uses. One of those is irrigation, another is recreational. The current water right is irrigation, and so if it gets converted to recreational, there is a conversion factor. So you don't always get all of the full water right. I don't know where that is in your calculation that you have at this point in time, but it will be something that has to be considered.
When I talked to the gentleman at the state, they told me that the 150 acre feet was more or less figured in a factor of a 12% decrease plus the LDM allotment and stuff. So
that would already be the converted.
That would already be the use. Converted factor. It might. I think the number that I recalled was 159, okay. And so we put it at 150.
So just for everybody to understand that is part of the reason why you wouldn't be receiving the full water right that exists currently, because with the conversion between irrigation and recreational, there is a different factor that you can't consume that much. And part of the theory of that is that with irrigation, there's going to be some of that water that flows down through the soil and recharges the aquifer again. However limited it is part of the calculation. Versus recreational use, they assume that it is going to be consumed and not returned to the aquifer.
And we're working with two different aquifers where the wells are on the state property is in the Ogallala aquifer, and down in the Smoky Gardens, alluvial aquifer.
Right.
And so we've got two different aquifers, so we're taking from one to recharge the other.
Correct.
If there's any other public comment, you can ask now, or when we get to the gentleman from the state, we will continue.
I just want to make a comment that we're having our Undersheriff Jeff Memorial Golf Course Tournament. It's going to be April 29th, 7:30. We're going to start doing this yearly. This year we're using the funds to send Grace. She was chosen by the, can't think of the name of the group, the AIST. They play in all different countries across the world. American International Sports Team. She was selected to play on that team, and they're going to be playing in Italy. So we're going to use the funds this year to send her to Italy so that she can do that. That's one of the dreams Jeff had for his daughter, was to fulfill her dream of playing softball. She loves doing that. And so next year, if we decide to go ahead and do it again, we're going to establish a scholarship and do a scholarship in his name every year.
Who do they need to contact if they wish to?
Contact Carol a lot, or just call the office. I do have a few flyers here if you guys want them. We have corporate sponsorship, or I think signing up. It's $80 a team, and $25 for a T-shirt if you want it.
Okay. Thank you.
Rochelle,
Good morning.
good morning. Lots of numbers here.
I just want to, so we have our 2023 ag values. I just wanted to share with you. Yeah, a lot of numbers on this page. So basically the first columns are the 2023 ag values, the 2022 are the next ones, and then the difference per dollar. So the DR stands for dry land. NG is native grass, and then irrigation is broken out by depth of the well. So we have 100, 200, 300, and 400 depths of the well. Irrigation also, we also get the Division of Water Resources reports that show us how much water is applied, so the acre feet. So that fact, this is the base value on irrigation, and then depending on how much water is used, there's a factor that gets applied there. But as you can see, native grass overall is going down about $1 an acre or staying the same. Dry land is going down $10 to $13 per acre. So the other numbers in column A are the soils. So each soil has a price. And K-State and the state of Kansas work together to come up with this use value, which is an income approach on an 8-year average. And then irrigation is going down. So I just wanted to share those numbers with you. Each person will get their new values on all real estate March 1. So that if you're a farmer and you have some ag land, you'll get your new values. And then at that time, if you guys start getting questions, people call you, since you're new, Harvey, when people call you about their values, don't try to answer their questions, just have them call us. And I know at a former meeting, someone said, oh, ag values are going down, so that means we have to raise the commercial and residential to make up for it. And those have nothing to do with each other. So residential and commercial are based on market value. So what we're saying is if we were to sell your house or your business, we want to be within 10% of that number. So we look at what properties have been selling for to try to establish a number on that. So ag use and the rest of them are totally separate. They don't have anything to do with each other.
Okay. Now, these values are set by the state. They're not set by you. You provide information for them.
Right. We get aerial photography from the federal government, and then we have a vendor for our mapping we use, which is Kimball Mapping, is what we use here. And we use that aerial photography or a site inspection, or if someone's told us they've changed the use of their property, to see where like their dry land is versus native grass and irrigation. And then we get a soil map that lays on top of that. And then Kimball Mapping gives us the breakdown of what soil is in, like, say, dry land versus the native grass. And we just plug those numbers in and it gives us a price per acre. So yeah, other than determining if it's dry land, grass, CRP, irrigation, we have no say in the values of ag land.
Okay.
Those are given to us by the state. So this is a new legislative season. I would encourage you guys to get very active. Today I've heard their meetings are going to be discussing property taxes. I think one day this week's property tax, one day sales tax, and one day's income tax is what I've heard. I don't know exactly what all bills are out there. I've heard a few that would affect the counties quite a bit. So I would encourage you and everybody here, contact your legislators when there's an issue that you have. We have really great legislators out here, but we have one representative and one senator. And so feel free to contact the ones in Eastern Kansas if you have issues. When people call them, they do listen. So if they don't hear from people, they think we're okay with everything. So the more they hear from you, if you don't like something, the more that they will pay attention. So just know that your voice does matter. Everybody has a voice, so use it. Personal property, we're going to have a lot of changes with personal property this year. We just received our guide Friday, so I haven't had a chance to really look it over, but a lot of new legislation, a lot of things that used to were about, if you owned it January 1 and you sold it January 5th, you still paid the taxes for the whole year. A lot of items that used to be like that are now prorated. Some trailers are now exempt. So there's a lot of changes on personal property. Now is the time, if you have any personal property, it's self-reporting. So you want to come in the office and let us know by March 15th so you avoid any penalties. So if you have something like a boat or a heavy truck or ATV, UTV, golf cart, and you haven't reported it by March 15th, then every month that it's late, there is a 5% penalty up to 50%. And those penalties add up fast. So I encourage everybody to get those in by March 15th. And we are getting quite a few people that come in, so it's really good. Other than that, I don't have anything. If you guys have any questions, let me know. As always, or if you think of something later, just give me a call or email, and I'll try to answer your questions best I can.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian? Do you want to bring anybody up with you or whatever you need to do?
I might call on some folks later on.
Okay.
Well, good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
It's nice to talk to you in person, finally, versus just emails and phone calls. I guess for whatever records you need, I'm Brian Sherman. I work for Kansas Wildlife and Parks. I am the Regional Public Land Supervisor, and I cover Northwest Kansas. Before we get too carried away, since I might be calling on folks, I'll go ahead and introduce everybody. Maybe not everybody, but I'll introduce several folks here that are with me today. So I've got Dave Spalsbury's back there. I think most of you are familiar with Dave. He's the district fisheries biologist. He covers Northwest Kansas as well. Dave has been in his position for, 15 years, and he's from Northwest Kansas originally. Kent Hensley is here. He's the public lands manager that covers the Cedar Bluff district, which includes Kansas Veterans Wildlife Area. He's been in Northwest Kansas for over 30 years. Scott Waters is the regional fisheries supervisor for Region 1, which is Western Kansas. He's been in Region 1 for almost 20 years. Ryan Stuckey is the assistant division director for public lands. He would be my supervisor. I think he's here to answer any questions you might have about grants, but more so to keep me in line in case I go off the rails. Yeah. And then it's not a supermodel standing in the back there. That's Officer Mike Hopper. He has been your local game warden for over 20 years. I'm sure most of you know Mike. And not with Wildlife and Parks, but with Division of Water Resources. Mark Villinger is here in case you have questions about the water rights. I know some of that came up before he got here. But Mark has been in the natural resources realm in Northwest Kansas for over 20 years. The reason I introduced us kind of like that, and I guess just a little background on me, I won't tell you my whole life story, but I started this position in August of 2022. It had been vacant for a while. Previously, it was held by Mike Nyhoff. I think most of you know Mike. I'm still trying to figure things out, but I've become very familiar. In fact, my first week on the job, I had calls about Kansas Veterans and Smoky Gardens already. So there's been a lot of learning as far as all of this is concerned. But I'm from originally between Hayes and Great Bend, small town. The last census puts it at less than 40 people. Went to Fort Hayes. I've been in Northwest Kansas before, and I'm glad to be settling down here again. But the reason I introduce us like that is there's something from one of your previous commission meetings that kind of ate at me a little bit. And there was a comment that was made that they, who I assume to be us, don't care about Western Kansas, and we only care about your taxes. And just a couple of things I want to point out before we get started. Number one, and probably less important, Wildlife and Parks doesn't get your tax money. That's not how we're funded. Number two, this is where we are from. It's where we live. It's where we work. It's where we recreate. We do care. We get it. We're from small communities. We're not all from Sherman County, but there are similar situations, similar opportunities all across Western Kansas. And so we do care. I just want to dispel that myth right at the very beginning. I know a lot of people have questions about the MOU, about water rights. We can certainly talk about some of that if you have questions about it. Right now, for everybody's information, and I guess Brett can correct me if I'm wrong, but the MOU, the quitclaim, all of that right now is just going back and forth between our attorneys to try and make sure that we have verbiage, language in there that is acceptable to everybody. So really, I guess what my goal, what our plan is here, is to talk about what our plans are for Kansas Veterans Wildlife Area, for Smoky Gardens as a fishery, and just kind of give you this big picture perspective on what we want to do, because this has been a great partnership so far. And we had an MOU previously. That MOU actually expired over a year ago, and we didn't turn off the water. We don't want to turn off the water. We want you to have a fishery. We want to create this recreational complex for not just the locals in Sherman County to use when they want to, but also for people from outside of Sherman County to use, which will help economically in this area. So I'll probably talk about the wildlife area itself and kind of our plans after a bit. But first, I guess if Dave doesn't mind coming up and talking about the fishery, we can go over some of what he plans to do as far as fish stocking, what he's done already, and where we are going forward.
Thanks, Brian. Great introduction. And good morning, commissioners. Good to see y'all, and thank you for having me here. Just to kind of back up a little bit, currently we're working with the county from, I'm with the Fisheries Division at Wildlife and Parks, and currently we're in a cooperative agreement with Sherman County under our old Community Lakes Assistance Program, MOU. We do have a step above that in terms of grant potential, some other management aspects under the Community Fisheries Assistance Program. We did have a contract or an agreement we were going to sign back in 2019, but that just never got done. So we're kind of operating under a little bit lower level of cooperation, but still cooperation nonetheless. And because of that MOU, it allows us to stock fish. And really at this point, that's all I've done at Smoky Gardens so far. I just brought a list of what we've stocked and what we plan to stock. I know, and like Brian said, with the meeting back there, with the last meeting, there was some question about what fish have been stocked. So initially back in 2020, we stocked fathead minnows and golden shiners to establish a forage base, about 2,000 to 3,000 of each species in Smoky Gardens. And later in the year, we stocked bluegill, sunfish, about 250, 300 of them. And then we stocked twice channel catfish, one as just a put and take sort of scenario where they're already grown to size and people can just come down and catch them and keep them, about 300 of them. And then following that fall of 2020, we put in some intermediate channel catfish, which tend to be about 6 to 8 inches long. That's more of an intention of put them in, let them grow, then people can take them. And then in 2020, we turned around, stocked some more bluegill, about 500 or 250 of them, more channel catfish, kind of a similar regime, but increased, stocking a couple more times of the catchable size fish. Stocked about 500 of the catchable size and about 500 of the short foot grow and take ones. And then at that point, I just assumed that our sunfish had been in there long enough, our minnows had been in there long enough, there would be some degree of a forage base. So then we stocked largemouth bass. We stocked about 100 of them in 2021. And then that's when we started stocking rainbow trout too, that winter. We stocked, in 2021, we stocked about 400 rainbow trout. Well, excuse me, more like 800 rainbow trout. And then in 2022, we've continued the trout stocking and channel catfish stocking. We stocked about 500 catchable size channel catfish this summer. And then in the fall, we turned around with another 250 foot grow and take smaller channel catfish. And then we've started the trout program, and we've, again, for this season that starts November 1 of each year, and we've done 2 of the 3 stockings we plan to stock. We've stocked probably about 250 to 300 fish per stocking, so about 500 fish so far, and we'll finish at about 750 to 800 rainbow trout for this trout season too. So, and basically this coming spring, we have a request system that we use. We have to put in requests to our hatchery system so they know what they need to produce. And I've requested more channel catfish for stocking. And then, of course, some of the catfish and rainbow trout come from a private vendor, so we just go buy them. But we still have to put those requests so they're on the books, so that budgetarily we know what we're doing. We put in for full trout and catfish stocking as well for 2023. So, and we just go year to year. Think going back to that last commission meeting too, there was some mention that the county had paid for fish for stocking down there. And I guess my thing is I have no clue what was stocked. And so I think this coming year, it would be a prudent step to do some exploratory fish sampling to get an idea of what's there. Because if we don't know what's there, it's hard to manage for anything. So that would be kind of, from my perspective, in terms of providing a fishery, the next step. So,
Dave, is there any sign down there that the forage-based fish are spawning and reproducing?
Rod, all I can tell you, we have done no sampling down there to this point.
Okay.
All I can tell you is from visual estimation, just seeing fish. And yeah, I've seen some small sunfish and everything. But it's hard until we can actually go down and sample in a standard and quantitative fashion. It's hard to give you trends or ideas of what's going on. Because a lot of times too, relative to forage, you don't always just look at numbers of forage fish you sample. You also look at adult fish condition. And that's a very good indicator of forage. And that's where getting some hands on some fish would be pretty important.
Yep.
Question for you on the channel cat that you put in the small ones. What is the growth rate as far as, if I get a chicken at a baby chick, 6 weeks later, I can have a chicken sandwich. So what's
the difference is you've got 2 different organisms. Chicken, has a determinate growth form.
Right.
So they're like a human being. They grow to a certain point in their life and then they essentially stop.
Right.
Whereas fish do not. And fish grow throughout their entire life potentially, or if they have an issue like a stressor or a lack of resources, they may not grow at all and they may stay very small. So it's very hard, again, until we start sampling it's hard to answer that. And that's partially why we went with those put and take channel catfish that were already grown out, so that the public could immediately have a fish of approximate quality that they would want to harvest.
Okay.
Just have a couple questions. Is it a common practice to let people know when you stock? Because one of the complaints I hear is people don't know that you're stocking that at all.
Honestly, for me, it's one of those things. I'm just trying to keep moving, get to the next lake, because we've got fish on the truck. And I mean, if you've hauled livestock, you know what that's like too. You want to get them off the truck because, who knows what can happen on the trip. And I've had multiple things happen on multiple trips when I've stocked through the years. And so it's you always got a fire under you to get them off the truck. And so we're just trying to get them off the truck. We get down there. And like with the trout, it's one of those deals where he's coming from Nebraska. He's going all the way to Oklahoma and he's trying to get home. And a lot of times there's weather involved and other things. So it's one of those things where he wants the meat right at first light, we get it done, and we're on to the next. So, as far as coordinating and letting people know what we're stocking, I don't try to create a whole lot of fanfare because I want to get in and get out. And I mean, who do I call? I don't really have a contact to know who to even call.
Right.
So, it's kind of difficult in that regard as well.
Second thing I wanted to ask you, did the county go through you and get permission to put fish in that lake?
I was not aware of the stockings that were mentioned. I mean, they didn't consult with me on numbers, size, species, anything like that. So that's part of why it would be helpful to sample, because if I don't know what's been in there,
It's hard to manage it if you don't know what's been put in there.
That's correct.
And I know that every place I've been fishing, they put up signs that they don't want that to happen.
Mhm.
And so I was just kind of curious because my understanding, it wasn't really the county that did that, but it was individuals that went together and did that. And that was my understanding. It wasn't really the county, but I just wanted to make sure that is it a practice that we could do? If we as a commission say we'd like to stock it with a certain fish, can we go through you to do that?
Yeah.
But we need to communicate that.
Right. And at least give me the chance to consider it and maybe provide you with technical advice as to whether it's a good idea or not a good idea to introduce a certain species. And there again, that's where integrating sampling results and stuff also helps too, because then you bring that to the table, and essentially what I'm doing when I'm sampling is I'm kind of painting a picture of what's going on in that fishery, because I mean, we can't see below the waves, and it's hard to tell what's going on until we can start collecting enough information. We can start putting a picture together as far as what this fishery needs or doesn't need. It's hard to say, yeah.
It's too easy to throw the balance off doing something like that if you don't know what's
Correct.
going in there or where they're coming from.
Well, and then even more fundamentally, and we as fisheries biologists have done this to ourselves, is we've created in everyone's mind, and even to some degree in our mind too, and this is getting probably too philosophical for a commission meeting, but we've created this idea that stocking is a silver bullet. Like if you need more fish or want more fish or want to catch more fish, you just need to stock more fish. And there's a lot of people that promulgate, especially people that make money off that sort of a business, they promulgate off of that concept to make more money or make people happy or whatever.
People see a 3-step thing. You dig the hole, you put the water in, you throw the fish in.
Correct.
That's all they see.
It's a little more complicated than that,
A lot
by
more,
far.
yeah. A lot more.
But yeah, we've stocked what we've stocked to this point. And like I said, I think it would be good in future to, come spring, to do a little exploratory sampling, get a better idea of what's there, and then be able to provide a little bit more solid guidance for a down the road vision. And I think that's, as far as Smoky Gardens is concerned, that's the key. Is I think having an envision of what's that thing going to look like is important. And I think that's important since you commissioners are the steers of that ship, the decision makers, that you have a very clear vision of what Smoky Gardens is going to be. That vision changes over the years because as management's concerned, it's like managing a pasture or anything like that, a living system. It changes over time. It ages, and there's things that go along with that. So it's got to be a flexible management. But, there has to be at least a vision of what we plan to accomplish.
I'm looking at this as a step process. Step 1 is to secure the water, and we're not there yet. We're getting there. So that's a progression. I think we're going to be having a lot more conversations on your end once we get the other folks satisfied.
Sure. I'm totally open to that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to ask about the notifying the public, because if you're not communicating to the public, they don't know what you're doing. That's the first time I've heard how much fish was ever been stocked. I don't think anybody knew that. Is there some way we could publicize that? Say, I don't like doing the day you're stocking because that creates a frenzy of everybody go fishing.
I think once we establish definitive points of contact on how everything's going to roll here with us.
But if you
That's
do
important.
like a website or something to communicate to the public,
Well, we have that on our Kansas Wildlife and Parks website. We do publish what we've stocked.
okay, you have
Kind of
so-
statewide, yeah.
but I don't think the public knows to go look there that you stock.
That's- that
That
happens.
that needs information from these guys to communicate to the public of what's happened, so that someone else doesn't come in and stock because they think it hadn't been done. So communication and transparency is very important. So I didn't even know you can go to the website to Kansas Wildlife Park to see what you stock.
But also, too, I think it's important to realize as well is, that comment of, the public thinks they need to come stock something because they feel like it needs it. That gets into that realm of these random stockings that are not helpful for management.
Right. But if they communicated that there was stocking prior to that, like I said, I never knew you guys stocked that much before. The public didn't either.
Right.
So if they'd known, they may not have done that.
Now we're
No,
going to
they'll still stock because we see that all over the place. That creates headaches all the time.
we're going to get it. This is jumping ahead now. We're talking about securing the water. We're talking about coordinating what that lake needs, what the immediate needs are that we need to take care of right away, and that's conversations to be had. But we also have enforcement, which I know Mr. Hopper has had issues with what he can enforce and what he can't. And at some point, we'll let him jump in on that too. Do you have anything to add to that, Mike? I mean, a lot of this is down the road, but we need to talk about
I
it.
guess, are you wanting to talk about the wildlife management concept to it, the fisheries aspect, the recreational boating aspect? What part do you want me to cover?
Just a brief synopsis of what you haven't been able to do because of private stocking and what that does to your end of it.
Well, I guess put it on the record, because this is one of those areas that is, it's against the law to take fish from one impoundment and put them in another impoundment. There's a lot of things that can happen with that would all be negative. If a disease or a virus would be introduced into Smoky Gardens, not only is that a tremendous amount of time and effort to be taxing for wildlife and parks, but it potentially could be harmful for the environmental aspect, not only for Smoky Gardens, but all entities involved, whether it be for KDHE, whether it be the Water Commission, Sherman County, Wildlife and Parks. One of the things that I keep hearing is, well, the state of Kansas, Wildlife and Parks is doing this. Hold on just a second. There's a lot of different state agencies that are involved in this project. A tremendous amount of time, money, and effort. It's an investment. When potentially fish are introduced into an impoundment, if they come from another impoundment, the risk of not only increased predation issues, but then also with this disease and virus, things we can't control. It's going to be extremely negative for Smoky Gardens if fish are introduced into that. That's why it's against the law. We don't want that to happen. Second of all, if they come from a particular hatchery for that introduction principle and concept, there's a particular process that needs to happen by, not just somebody in the public saying, well, I want to spend the money to go in there and put X number of fish in. That needs to go through the agreement process, through Sherman County, through the commissioners, through Wildlife and Parks, all entities involved. Dave needs to have a major play into that, because Dave's the one that's going to be looking at what's beneficial and what's not. So I've caught wind that particular individuals within the community elected to spend their money to put fish into Smoky Gardens. The short and sweet of it is, please don't do that. It's not taxpayers' money that's paying for that. That money that comes through Wildlife and Parks is paid through sportsmen, dollars, permits, license sales, fishing equipment, boating equipment, hunting equipment, through the Pittman-Robertson, Dingle-Johnson Coast Guard excise taxes. There is a particular tremendous responsibility that Wildlife and Parks, it's their responsibility to ensure that that money is spent wisely. Several years ago, when Sherman County got involved with that, with the project of Smoky Gardens, we agreed to, let's work together on it. So we would ask folks from the public not to take it upon themselves to spend their money to introduce fish into that lake for everything that could possibly go wrong, so that that investment for all is being utilized and managed for all, not just a couple. So I know how Northwest Kansas politics goes. Please don't do that anymore. It's that simple. It's not beneficial for Sherman County. It's not beneficial for Smoky Gardens, the resource. It's not beneficial for the state of Kansas. So on that particular aspect of the fisheries, we would ask any and all, because that money that is spent for the fish that go in there, nothing's free. The fish that are being put in there and have been put in there and will be put in there in the future comes out of those that utilize that for all, for the state of Kansas and those sportsmen and women that visit Smoky Gardens, but also come to Sherman County that will also on that business of business. I didn't study business, I studied wildlife, but wildlife has taught me business. It's not a wise use of that money. As well as once something's introduced, it's going to become extremely expensive to fix it. Please follow the program, please follow the contract, please follow the law that says don't introduce something other than with the recommendation of Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks Fisheries Division. On the boating aspect, there again with that contract, that safety concept that's promoted not only through Kansas law, but through federal law on the issues of the U.S. Coast Guard excise taxes. Anytime anybody utilizes a public waterway, they have to follow those laws and regulations. The last thing anybody in Sherman County wants, especially the game warden and the powers to be with Sherman County, is to have an accident that would occur in Smoky Gardens, and then that gets soured quickly. I know it's not popular, but the bottom line is for that public safety, I don't want to have to, and the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks doesn't want to have to do an accident report for a drowning or somebody that would go out on the ice, because this ice is not good ice. We get way too much warm days followed by cold days. Way too much cold days followed by warm days. That waffles that ice. It makes it extremely unsafe. That's a discussion for a later date and time.
Right.
But on the boating aspect, no, it's a public waterway. Please follow those laws and regulations when it comes to boating. And so whether it be kayaking, canoeing, whether we don't allow the motorboats down there other than trolling motors. And that was decided upon that agreement through Wildlife and Parks in Sherman County. And so I guess with that being said, yes, you can have a question. I'll be more than happy to entertain.
Okay, there's signs up, no, not to be on the ice, not to be swimming, but who enforces it? And what do you enforce?
Wildlife and Parks, any law enforcement officer can enforce that. We have on the no swimming, that was an agreement so that when, it's my understanding that when that was, Smoky Gardens was to be sealed up with the layer underneath to help reduce the water loss, they didn't want an area that was causing a problem with leakage. On the swimming aspect of it, here again, it's not a swimming hole. It's being done with the intent to be able to provide the recreational aspect of everybody to get to enjoy camping and fishing. And you had the other question was?
Well, on the ice.
On the ice.
On the ice and swimming, just the whole area,
Mm-hmm.
the no burn. Who enforces it?
Those are set first with the aspect, the sheriff's office can enforce that. We need to have further discussion in regards to on the ice issue, because Wildlife and Parks is not going to say, once a person purchases a fishing license, if they go out on that ice, there's an inherent risk that they take upon themselves to, if they fall through, because that ice is poor ice, if the commission would so elect to have a county ordinance that would say, okay, if you find yourself out on the ice, that could be a potentially misdemeanor charge. That needs to be decided through with the assistance of the county attorney in writing that up so that that would be prohibited for that.
But both of you, you and the county can enforce it. When the sheriff's office is down there, they can
Correct.
enforce those things.
Correct. Yes, the sheriff's office has the authority to enforce these sorts of things.
So it's a law.
It would be a county ordinance on the ice issue. Wildlife and Parks can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to lean on you a little bit here. You showed up. Correct me if I'm wrong. We have no desire to restrict that usage of ice other than when it becomes a public safety issue. If somebody would, for example, if a parent allows their kid to go out on that, it can be enforceable for the aspect of child endangerment, which is a misdemeanor charge. Could even be a felony charge, all for fishing. If it's we don't wish to restrict that anymore under the Wildlife and Parks colors, prevent that from happening. Not all enforcement takes a ticket. Not all enforcement takes other than information and education. With cooperation and understanding is our goal.
Signs more of an insurance, because every lake you go on, I mean, Trent, all the way down south, up to the person, honestly, go out on the ice, check the ice before you go. It's your own kind of responsibility. You got your life jacket, you got your fishing gear. How are you going to go ice fishing?
No, I understand. I actually had an incident that occurred last year. Got it on video. I was astounded that the person actually thought it all the way through. They actually put a boat on Smoky Garden, a flat bottom boat. They had a life jacket, had fishing licenses. They tied the boat to the hitch of the pickup truck. They parked it within a certain distance. They thought it through. The vast majority of enforcement infractions that occur is because somebody doesn't think. They find themselves in that aspect of, well, I can legally do it. It's kind of like concealed carry, driver's license. Just because you have it doesn't mean you have to do it. If the risk outweighs the potential of public safety.
On that note, we're able to do that.
I've never written a ticket on it, and I'm not going to write a ticket on it. If county commission would elect to make a county ordinance down at Smoky Gardens that says thou shalt not be on the ice, that's going to fall on the county and the powers to be. And so now, does that mean that I won't take enforcement action? No, I'm going to work with the sheriff's office because this is a joint effort. This isn't just me. This isn't just Wildlife and Parks. This isn't just the sheriff's office.
I just wanted to make a comment about that. We actually had I think a young lady out on the ice just recently. The problem is we couldn't force it. We used verbal to try to get her off the ice. The ice was cracking underneath of her. I can't remember the young lady or man, I can't remember, but they told me they had to convince them to get off the ice. That's where he mentioned that to take it a step further, if we're going to have it enforceable, it has to have some type of penalty assigned to it. Same thing with swimming and anything else. We can talk them out of it, try to do the right thing unless they violate some other law. I can't really force them out unless they are violating another law. So, but the main thing is that's one thing you guys, the commission, need to look at is if you want to have a penalty phase to that, then that makes it a little bit more enforceable.
We'll have that's more discussion down the road for sure. We'll have a lot to talk about.
Sure. Have I covered the points that not only for the committee?
I know we have a lot more kayakers. Do people need to have their boats registered with the state, the kayaks with the state or anything before they go out there?
Under Kansas law and under U.S. Coast Guard law and regulation, the only time that a vessel has to be registered in a state, whether it be Kansas or any other state, is if it's wind powered or motor powered. If it's human powered, kayaks are going to fall under that. They don't have to be registered to have a KA number. They have to follow all laws and regulations as far as PFDs, personal flotation devices. Anybody that's on that vessel has to have a life jacket that fits them and serviceable. It can't be stored in a compartment. If a person is under the age of 13, they have to have it on while they're on the water on the vessel. If they're operating that vessel after sunset, before sunrise, they have to have navigational lights. I've never seen a kayak that met the requirement on all the other aspects. If you have the gasoline and electric, all these other safety issues play into that as well. But under kayaks, typically, although I have seen a couple kayaks that have had trolling motors put on them, there again, the moment that operator puts a electric motor, a gas motor on it, then it has to be registered. In Smoky Gardens, that's never been an issue.
Okay.
And so, any other questions from whether it be the commissioner or anybody in the public?
Who, like safe ice, who would determine it would be safe ice? This next month, if we have 20-degree highs, within 10 days, it'd be safe ice. If it prolongs for 20 days, it's still safe ice. So why couldn't you, somebody,
yeah, and that's one of those
prevails, but if there's safe ice, why can't we go across there towards the west end where it's shallower for an X amount of days, rope it off, allow people to ice fish within that area for X amount of time?
Yeah, the physics behind ice. We don't live in Wisconsin. We don't geographically. The environmental conditions here with Smoky Gardens is altogether different than what it would be Cedar Webster, Glen Elder, bigger bodies of water. When they freeze up, their ice tends to be more stable. I think social media, I think TV tends to mislead people. You're not going to catch me out on the outside. Plain and simple, you're not going to get me on Smoky Gardens. That ice, in my opinion, in my experience, I've been through the ice before. You're not going to catch me. Period. In the story. When we get sunny days and it backed up, you're going to see a difference from the north side to the south side, from the west end to the east. In my professional opinion, my personal opinion, you're not going to catch me out. Period. If somebody goes through, we're going to do other rescue operations in regards to get somebody home. One of the problems that has been in the past that's been brought to my attention is the availability or the lack thereof of the use of cell phones. There are certain areas down there this close. You might be talking to somebody in Goodland, take one step one way or the other. There's no more communication. That safety aspect.
Supposedly we
here
have
again,
cell phones,
it
right?
falls upon
Service down there.
the powers in this room. You could decide
Yeah.
on that particular account.
Mike,
I'm sorry.
there is cell phone service down there now. Next Tech has put up a repeater of whatever it's called. And yes, there is cell phone service. That's
Okay, there you go.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to extend it another 6 or 8 feet. But yes, there is.
Yeah.
That's just in the last month or so.
And that's good to know.
For quite a while.
That's good to know. I was unaware of that. Here again, that's why we have these public meetings. That's why we wish to discuss. So yeah, we're here to learn. Does anybody else have any other questions, cares, concerns, grievances, or complaints that I can address?
Do the trout die during the summer?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so what was turned loose down there, from what I understand? Trout,
One time.
one time.
They all got caught, I think.
But
Very good, because they
but-
were nice, I saw it, nice ones.
But Dave, I just went through a list of what we stocked in 2019, 2020, 2021. We've here in 2022 and 2022, we stocked 2 times in 2022. There should be between 500 and 600 trout available in Smoky Gardens right now.
And I'm not saying that, I'm saying what they turned loose down there.
Was before you had put anything out.
Oh, okay, my bad. I didn't
Yeah,
understand.
Oh,
that was
I thought
put in way
you're-
before you guys.
When
put
you were
anything
saying they, I thought you meant
Yeah.
me.
Guys in the green shirts, right?
No. And
Okay.
that was put in before you guys put anything in, and to my knowledge.
Those trout
nobody's added
are
anything
deceased.
since.
No.
I mean, if it was 1 or 2 fish, I don't know that.
But also to that point, and getting back to that public stocking, trout may not be an issue, but you put something like a crappie
Yes.
or something capable of natural production and recruitment in that body of water. Once they're there, they're there. And unless you come in and eradicate the entire fishery and start over or drain it or anything like that, you're stuck with that mistake. So that's why the public stocking thing is such an
I'm not
important.
saying they're right or wrong or whatever.
Right.
I'm saying what they turned loose down there was trout. And what they have turned loose through whatever they did there.
Sure.
By now are dead.
Okay.
It was a one-time thing.
One time.
Yeah, we don't know what they
Sure.
stopped.
But still, sampling, going down there and sampling, kind of inventorying sizes, conditions, stuff like that, is definitely a prudent step to give us some information to manage with.
How come we haven't done
Because it hasn't been done. Because we're just getting things started. A lot of it was just introductory stocking. It takes time for these things to kind of. That's one thing people don't understand, and is these things take time. A lot of the catchable size fish were stocked, so it wasn't an immediate resource. But stuff like bass, bluegill, stuff like that, that takes time. And that's where, that's something Mike never talked about, is harvest regulations, like the length limits and creel limits. That's why currently, this panfish are catch and release only, was it, to enable them to reproduce, kind of fill the void. But we will be changing those regulations to potentially, depending on what we see regarding the sampling.
They're going to sample this year?
That's the plan in the spring.
How are we doing on time? We got anybody else coming in or?
Well, we're
They're out there.
One more chance from anybody in the public or the commission. Any other questions at this time?
Don't believe so.
And as always, if you have a question, you have a care or concern, get a hold of me. I'll be more than happy to try to help.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, I'll just, unless you have a lot of questions for me, I guess what I'll do here, since we are probably running long on time, is maybe put a bow on things or just kind of explain where we are with the agreements and stuff. Like I said, the MOU and the quit claim, that's being discussed between the attorneys so that we have something that's agreeable. Mike mentioned some really good information about funding, where our funding comes from, and what our focus has to be. So when we purchased that additional 1,000 acres that has now been incorporated and is part of Kansas Veterans Wildlife Area, we did so with a federal grant, with the Pittman-Robertson grant. So our focus for that area and for that purchase has to be wildlife. And ultimately, that's what we want to do. is we want to create this wildlife area that is accessible. It's this recreational complex between Kansas Veterans Wildlife Area and Smoky Gardens. You want to fish, you've got a fishery. You want to hunt, you've got a place to hunt. You want to just look at wildlife, have at it. You know, any maybe not any outdoor pursuits, but a place for folks to use that resource where everybody's benefiting. Sherman County's benefiting, we're benefiting, the users are benefiting. It's good for everybody. So I guess moving forward, we'll continue to do management on the wildlife side of things. We'll use the various tools that we have at our disposal to, make that happen. Unless you have questions about specifics, I won't get into all the specifics because we took a little bit longer than I expected with other things. The immediate steps now, as were discussed, we'll get the agreement signed, quit claim signed. We'll get all of that. Once all of that's finished up, we will go ahead. I say we, Kansas Wildlife and Parks, will proceed with having that water right converted then because the term permit expires at the end of this year. So the sooner we can get that process going, the better, to where we get the agricultural rights converted to recreational. We will take a, drop in water right when we have that converted. And then there's also a LEMA in place, which has affected things a little bit. One thing I will address just really quickly for everybody's information, there's been a lot of contention over a potential wetland on Kansas Veterans Wildlife Area. At this point, with the LEMA, with the restrictions, with everything else, I'm not sure it's ever going to happen. I'm not going to get rid of the idea totally, but in the near future, it's not likely. There would certainly be some benefit to having water on the landscape, but at this point, our focus is wildlife in many other ways, and even Smoky Gardens provides a wildlife benefit as a water source right there. So, like I said, we'll get the agreement signed, we'll get the water right converted. Hopefully, that's the goal. Once we have made application, then it's kind of out of our hands, but we'll continue to go through this, and then as time continues, we'll just keep working together.
From a commission standpoint, I think, it's important that for everybody to understand, I think we all want the same thing.
Agreed.
It's just all the twists and turns that it takes to get there. This commission is committed to getting on board with this thing, getting it done right, letting the attorneys work out the knots, and moving forward. I think we can have a much better fishery down there than we've had in the past. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done down there, but we'll get there.
So this agreement has not been signed yet?
The MOU and the quit claim have not been completed yet.
Explain MOU to me.
Memorandum of understanding that we're going to work with Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks to have fish provided, to have consulting, to have people come out and see what's in the lake, stuff of that nature.
The original MOU they sent out was signed on the 9th, but they had not signed it.
Have they signed it?
No, there's revisions.
Okay.
Brett probably knows more about it.
It's not signed.
No,
It is not
it's
signed.
not in force.
Okay. Thank you.
That's what we're working towards. So,
I just want to reiterate, does anyone have any questions on this quit claim deed about the water rights? Like I said earlier, we did not own the water rights. We're not giving up any water rights. It is with the state of Kansas that are allowing us to use that water from a diversion point that is different than what the Smoky Gardens is at. And so they're allowing us to do that, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we're not giving up anything we don't.
Will they leave the motors there now to pump the water and not put in electricity?
I haven't heard anything more about that. We'll use the motors that are there.
Because I'm pretty sure that's a heck of a lot cheaper.
It's all stuff that to be worked out. Yeah, I'm with you. It's more efficient that way. Yeah, we just need to get our points of contact. If Dave's going to manage the fishery, Dave needs to have some input. I'm talking Dave Spalsbury on how much water is pumped and when it's pumped, because it may affect something he's doing there, biologically. So, yeah, we need to establish all that.
Dave's been good to us all these years.
He's a swell guy.
Until you get on his bad side.
All right.
Well, if there's nothing else for us, we've taken up a lot of space in your little room here, so we'll probably, once everybody's satisfied, we'll probably take off and get out of your hair.
I appreciate y'all coming out, even if you didn't get to talk. Moral support.
I hope that everybody understands what's going on. We have the people here that if you have questions about the MOU, about the quitclaims deed, these guys are the ones that are working with us. They've explained it. I think it was kind of like beating on a rock sometimes to get it through our heads of what's going on. But once it is explained and understood that we're not giving up anything we didn't have, but they're allowing us to use this water and really no liability to the county.
Yes, I have one more question. Will it still be up to, Rod's been saying, okay, turn on the wells, or turn off the wells. Will that still remain, not you, Rod. Will that still remain the same? Will it be?
Yeah, there's no reason for that to change, but he may be coordinating with Dave Spalsbury.
Yeah.
I think he's to be commended. You look at the water usage at that lake this summer, the driest summer we've had. I think he's done an excellent job in maintaining it.
Yep.
So basically, you guys are trying to continue what's been done for the last several years.
Yes.
Hopefully in a little bit more organized fashion.
Right. Thank you.
More communication with everybody.
These guys aren't the boogeymen. I mean, we got to work together here. This ain't going to work. We're going to have a dry hole if we don't work together.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. So,
And if folks have questions, for wildlife and parks about anything specific, they can certainly reach out to me. I maybe will volunteer Mark Billinger with Division of Water Resources if there are any questions specific that they would handle. But yeah, certainly, commissioners, I think you all have my information. If somebody has questions, please reach out. That's what we're here for. We're not trying to be the boogeyman at all. We're trying to help out. We'll use the resource just like everybody else will. So we want something that is going to be beneficial for everybody.
Okay. I thank you guys. I know I've talked to Brian. I've talked to Mr. Billinger on the phone several times to try getting things understood. They're very open and willing to work with us. They've never said no to anything we've asked. They want to get it out front and open, and I appreciate that, and hopefully we can continue to work with that.
If I could say, this project has just been a gem, and it's been a pleasure to be part of it. I think we would all have our hearts and our ways. Like you said, it's just stumbling through the little details, but it's a wonderful project, and it's been very satisfying.
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, commissioners.
You bet.
All right. Thank you. We will be in touch.
Thank you, Chairman, member of the commission.
You bet.
Thank you for being here.
You guys, make sure that when you go home, don't take any snow with you.
I didn't bring the fog with me.
Oh, okay.
I had like 60 miles of suit fog.
But did it lift fairly quickly, or did it hang on?
It stayed persistent until I got to about Colby, and then it just was gone.
Hey, you're welcome, Mr. Dewell.
Okay.
Can I turn the air on?
Yes. Amen.
That turned out real well. Okay. Did everybody get the minutes?
Yes. Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Oh, we got questions?
I think there's discussion want to be had about the ice. When do you plan on doing that? About allowing people on the ice and that? You said there was further discussion about that need to be had.
Yeah. We can have that right now. If we're,
I'd like to have a little time to find out a little bit more about that, if that's okay. So if we could put it on the agenda for our next meeting,
31st.
that's fine.
because I think we just put it off just a little bit.
I just know there's some people in the community that want to know about the
If they want to
ice
ice fish,
and be able to do the ice fishing and stuff like that, but need to have a discussion pretty quick because we're running out of ice fishing time. It's very short here in Kansas.
Okay. Well,
if we put it on the next agenda, that'd be all right.
yep. Sounds good. Anyway, I make a motion to approve the minutes from January 9th.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes from January 9th. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is passed. Okay, we have Chrissy.
We have department heads in general.
Say what?
Department heads in general for our.
Oh, okay. You're the first department head to come up?
Yes.
Okay.
I have two main projects I'd like to present for the possible ARPA grant usage. First one I'd like to talk about would be it centers around security of the courthouse. The thought is we convert and update 10 of the interior doors that currently have cassette style locks to the more current lock set and put a electronic lock on it. The 10 doors would be the commission entryway, the county clerk's office, county treasurer's office, the register of deeds, 3 doors on the second floor, the clerk of the district court's office, and then the 2 doors leading into the 2 correction officer areas. On the 3rd floor, the 2 doors, the extensions office and the appraiser's office. I have a quote from Next Tech for the equipment, and then I had reached out to 3 different contractors. One turned down turning in a bid. The other 2 have turned in bids for that project.
Now that's to retrofit the new style locks into the old doors.
Correct.
To make it look decent.
Correct. Well, to even have them. So what has to happen is the cassette needs to be pulled out, a filler put in, and then re-drilled for a current lock set.
Okay.
So
That's it. Yes. Did we, by any chance, did you get a quote on what it would cost us to replace the whole doors with the locks in comparison?
so the one contractor who turned down the job brought up that thought, but the minute that I pointed out, I believe it is 8 out of 10 doors have windows in them. He was like, never mind. I did not go get a quote to actually replace the doors. Given the cost of materials, I'd be afraid of what that is.
No. No.
Do you? I don't know if you guys are making decisions or not, but on the 2 contract quotes, they are both local. The one, I don't know the name of it. The level up construction would be through Matt McKenzie, and the the A2, the A squared construction is Dre. I don't remember his last name. Alan, thank you. So
Okay. Well, I think we have to put them all together and then see what we've got as far as dollars against our proposals.
any questions about the actual thought of the project?
No, we've talked about this before as far as the security of the courthouse and the different offices and stuff. And this would, what brings a lot of it is the old hardware being removed and new stuff being put in.
Okay.
No, I think it's a good project.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Number 2, we'll be addressing security in a different manner. In terms of cybersecurity, old hardware and old software have bigger holes than newer hardware and newer software. I've identified 38 computers across across 10 different departments that have, we've managed to stretch them and make them last a substantial amount of time. I would say the average age of the hardware I would throw into this project for replacement is 6 years old on average. There is definitely some older. To get these workstations up to date would also require updating their office software. So the 2 bids quotes you see there would be to update that to make this in a little better security standpoint in terms of cybersecurity.
6 years old on computers is a long time.
That's getting up there.
So bottom line, the ones that are in use have gotten their use out.
Okay.
Any questions?
No,
Believe
thank
so.
you.
Good.
Who wishes to jump up next?
Good morning.
Morning.
Handouts for you.
Thank you.
When we met in June, I presented pretty much this same concept to you. Nothing's really changed a whole lot. It is in order of preference. This is all based on the 911 backup site that I have at the police department. So far, I'm not sure. Eric, were you able to do this look? Kind of put together a presentation with some pictures for you just to kind of let you wrap your mind around whatever. And we can cover what's on this list while he's bringing that up.
Okay.
Cloud server is listed first. There's a lot of technical elements to that Eric knows that I don't, but we've come to the agreement that it's definitely something we need, especially if we're going to need to operate out of the backup site. So up on the screen is a photo of the Goodland Police Department. They've allowed us to, if you look where I put the B, that's our parking area. That's actually back inside their impound. And so that way our vehicles are secure and so are we. If you go back to the days of when the riots were happening, there were actually dispatch centers that got taken over. So that was a real eye-opener for those agencies because if you can't dispatch your calls, you're really in a bad place. That's what got me to thinking about this to begin with. And so they've given us access through their secure gate at any time of day with our bracelets that we use to get into our 911 center anyway. And so we can park back there, and then the blue star that's noted is where we'll enter, go through the gym, and then the yellow box off to the left is the actual room. The National Guard just used it for, it was labeled tools and dispatch, ironically. Okay. And so if you'll go to the next screen, that's actually what I started with originally. And so I just, used for storage. We moved everything out of there. They left some desks for us. The city was nice enough to go in and add a ton of electrical outlets for us because there was only one in the room at the time. And they did it within just a 24-hour notice. I mean, they really came to bat for us. And so then last week, if you want to advance it, this is my concept is to have it laid out pretty much just like our 911 center now, although it's in a different location. So they'll be accustomed to working, and then here's the printer and all that kind of stuff. The room is, I feel, secure, so that won't be an issue. If you want to continue again.
That's at night.
Yes, this is at night. It may not play.
Without the lights on.
Yeah, well, that's too bad. Anyhow, so last week I went in and we had previously purchased. Sorry.
They can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Get closer to the mic.
Oh, okay. So last week I went in and we had purchased carpet squares and acoustic tiles with last year's money. And so I finally had time, now that I have some more staff, and went in and laid those tiles. And then the acoustic tiles are now up on the wall to absorb sound because it's all a cinder block room. So what we have so far are the desks, the carpets in, tiles, and then we do have 2 PCs out there now. One's a laptop, so that's not really ideal. And then in years past, we've purchased a bank of radios. It's what you see like in a patrol vehicle. It's a mobile radio with a handheld mic. So that's not what we're used to at all, but we could make it work, but it won't play. Another time we'll go on a tour. How about that when it's all done? So going back to, are you able to hear? Okay, just want to make sure. Going back to my list, the cloud server is the main thing because if we can't access through the internet back to our dispatch center, such as a flood happens or something like that in that room, the only thing we can really do is talk on the radio at this point because I do have radio antennas installed. We could manage a few other things with a lot of help from Eric, but my idea is I want to be able to just flip a switch and go out there, no matter what is happening. So some of mine focuses a little bit on cybersecurity, but more of it is based on disaster planning, continuity of operations, and mitigation planning. If we can get that cloud server, that allows us to take what we have and get it up in the universe to where we can access it from anywhere. Section 2, I have labeled as independent radio console system. To put it in a nutshell, again, we would have to have access back to the dispatch center to operate our normal consoles, which is what we're used to.
Yep.
So I've been in contact with our radio person, and he said that's a generous estimate of what it would take to really get us where we need to be. With fire and EMS making their changes, that goes from UHF, and we add an 800 radio. If that's not feasible, though, we could work with a different setup. But again, if we can't connect back, then it's not going to do us any good. So definitely the independent radio console system is a need. And then the third item is just, more computers to get us set up without using a laptop and kind of a taped together system, so to speak.
Nope.
The difficult part about this is I don't love to spend money any more than anybody else, but without all the components that I'm listing here, we really can't go out there and work in a true fashion. We'd be passing off, phone calls to Colby. They would be trying to relay back to our department cell phone for us to try to give out on the radio to kind of simplify it. So,
okay.
I do have some items on the second page that are just smaller ticket items that I think we could work into our normal budget if we need to. That room is cinder block with a metal roof. So we'll definitely, if it's summertime or anywhere close to that, it gets very hot back there. So we need something to ventilate the room, which shouldn't be a problem.
So you believe the first 2 is a must?
Kind of all a must. I mean, the computers that we have now, we can kind of make it work, but if you think about working long hours off of a laptop and stuff, what we want better is like a normal setup with our 2 screens and our PCs out of the way and that kind of thing. So I utilized the desks that were out there. They weren't pretty, so put some paper on top and made them work so we don't have to buy anything like that. But we'll need chairs, things like that. Okay. I really feel like psychologically, if they're going to have to relocate, that's a big piece of this. that it needs to be as comfortable and as identical to what they're used to as possible.
Yes.
Do you know how much money you're working with, like as a whole, right?
No.
Oh, we don't. Okay. Okay. Well, I am excited that the fire department was able to utilize for that's going to be a huge improvement. So,
That was a pretty good chunk of change.
yes. So, any questions?
I don't think so.
Thank you for itemizing or categorizing them.
Sorry about the darkness picture.
All right.
Jennifer, you won the lottery. You're up next.
I actually don't have a formal request, but more so just a question for the commission. It was difficult for me to make the same request again as last year because I didn't have any follow-up or communication from the requests last year. As far as I'm concerned or know of, the radios were the only requests that were granted. Is that correct?
That's correct, and they pretty well maxed out what we had for money available.
Okay. So in order for me to define some asks, can you tell me what like the long-term goal of this large amount of funding is for the county? Like, is it for staff recruitment, retainment, infrastructure in the county? What do you see us doing with it? I'd be able to come with you with more specific requests if I knew that.
Yeah.
Well, some of it, as far like the radios, that's staff recruitment and safety, because something that we needed. A lot of this stuff, like the door locks and stuff, again, that's safety. The recruitment of, we can work in two spots on the dispatch, and you're setting here, and everything is the same as what we're setting if we move out to the second location. So a little bit of it, I'm going to say, is recruiting in the fact that we're trying to make things consistent with what the people are used to working with. You know, and if you're recruiting and you're showing them that, hey, we're trying to keep you safe, make things simplified or as easy as we can make it.
Now, when you say recruitment, are you talking staff?
Yes. Yeah.
Specifically? Like reaching out to
others? Yeah, I mean, if you said, well, one of our goals for the county was to increase recruitment and retainment of staff, you know, for especially healthcare providers, EMS, you know, I don't have an issue with that right now at the health department, but, you know, the hospital as well. Then I could come with you with more specific, you know, asks.
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't think we've
that I feel like
discussion.
could probably be granted because I have, you know, some data to support that.
Sure.
Whereas right now I feel like it's just, it's not as equitable as maybe I'd prefer it to be. You know, we're all just coming with wish lists.
Yep.
I know a lot of community members have come and asked for funding as well for, you know, pretty good ideas and projects in the community. And you could use the community health needs assessment that we did to support some of those grants.
Yeah, it sounds to me like we need to have a good sit down and have a lot more in-depth talk about this. I mean, she's bringing up some stuff that I didn't think about, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Because recruitment's got to be an important one in there too. You know, we're not getting any younger. We need more people to help us with the jobs that are available. And, you know, if we can get them started early and show them that we're making an effort to take care of them.
You know, I think honestly, what would have helped before and now, I mean, I'm talking with the Sparks stuff. Now it's hindsight, but, and now we're talking about ARPA funds. It might have been a little helpful if we had a workshop with some people that, I mean, this is what they do. Like Scott Lloyd that might be something that we should do soon, if we could do it. She's bringing up stuff that I didn't think about.
Well, I mean, I don't envy you. Anyway, you spend these funds, you're going to have fingers pointed and you're going to take arrows
Yeah.
You know, we all recognize that. But I feel like if you made decisions that were based on data and community input, such as the needs assessment and whatnot, you'd
No,
have a
you're
little
right.
more backing for sure.
100%. What do you guys think?
I think we need to sit down and look, have some.
I mean, it's easy to just pound together a wish list and say, okay, this is what we need. Burton and I have talked. It's like, yeah, you may not get another opportunity to do this. So what do you need? What should we be doing? Looking long term, you know?
That was, I mean, more of a question. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to, I'm sitting here thinking, well, I never even heard back from my last year's request, so I don't know if it was in line with what they were wanting or not. So it's hard for me to come and ask for the same thing and go back to my office for another year and sit there and wonder, as opposed to just throwing it out there and having that conversation.
I think we lacked a little communication between everybody, that we saw the need, and again, we hit the max of what we had for money.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
And don't get me wrong, the radios were great. I'm all for health and safety by all means.
Right.
And everyone's requests, I mean, they're legitimate. I just would like it a little more streamlined as far as what you guys see happening and how we can support that.
Okay.
Well, being new, okay, I still have a lot to learn on this, okay, so you know that. But I listen to the department heads, and then they do have a wish list.
Mm-hmm.
But my first concern is safety. Okay, and to me, that's a must. Okay, so that's the first thing that I personally look at. And then from there, it's like I ask, what does you feel like is the most important thing that we can do for you? And if we have the money, then that's what I look at. And then, like you said, the other things is we got to recruit and we got to maintain the people we do have. And so you do consider all that. But I will tell you, I listen to you, and my first goal is safety. And then what you feel is the most important thing to make you operate the best that you can. And our goal is, to me, is looking at that. So
we're going to listen to your recommendations. I mean,
well,
you run your department.
I don't want to be the enemy in the room and like have all the other department heads like, well, they're not going to do this,
We'd love to do it all.
Yes,
You know
I
that.
agree. I agree. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Batter up. Whoever wants to come up.
William's on his way.
I know last time I was in here, I tried to get pictures and things for out there at the fairgrounds to make everything hand touchable, like the paper towels and the faucets and the funerals and things.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would like to do again this year, because I think that would help keep things and wouldn't be near, help save on water and electric and stuff too.
Okay.
And I know the prices went up on the stuff this year, so.
That's almost a given.
Is there anything in the courthouse that you know of that's?
I think we've pretty much done that here. When was that, Ashley?
2020.
Huh?
2020.
2020. I went through and put faucets on all the sinks and in the toilets and the in-rolls, and we put paper towels in and automatic soap dispensers.
Okay. All right.
Very good.
And that's all I was needing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've only got one handout, but just a couple of items, CD, DVD duplicator, a couple of computers and monitors, and then a window, an intercom for that bulletproof window. It's kind of tough to talk through there, but these are by no means necessities. These are just things that we'd like to update as we go or add as we go. But
Yep. Okay.
That's all I got.
All right.
I got bids to update a truck and add another truck because I guess the biggest problem is right now is when the fire department has a fire and they're needing us to haul water to them. We don't have the thing hooked up most of the time, so we have to either call a truck back to town and fill it up and everything. So if we had another truck, then we could put our oldest truck on that water trailer and pretty much keep it there. You know, this time of year, sure, it's hard to keep it full because we don't have a place to keep it inside to keep it. But as long as we could, we try to.
Right.
But it's just so hard they need extra water all the time, and we don't have a truck to keep on it to where we can do it.
Right.
And the bottom one's the one that the top bid's a pre-emission truck, but it's an older one, and the bottom one's but I mean, the year difference is crazy not to go with the newer truck there.
Wow. Price is the same.
Yeah, there's no difference in the price.
How long does it take to fill that trailer?
If we fill it there off the weed department, it takes right at an hour.
Okay.
If we go across the street and hook up to the hydrant, it's about a half hour. But there again, I mean, several times we've been called out there. By the time we get it full and get out there,
Yeah.
they're about done. You know, and we should have been there earlier.
So you would just put one of these on your fleet and then
I
take
would put my oldest truck I got now on the trailer and put that one on the gravel trailers. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Guess you guys don't want anything, so we'll. Okay.
Okay. First thing I had was we kind of talked about hazardous pay 2 years ago. We didn't do anything with that. I was actually told that's what we signed up for. I think we need to look at that because I've heard a lot of sheriffs that are actually going back and getting that for their people. I don't have the dates and times to do any data to pull the information off payroll, but I think we need to look at that. First major project I have is the Bastille recreation yard. We lost our recreation yard when they built a new shed. I basically provide them recreation just within their cells. By statute, that's okay, but it's still, they're pinned up in those cells quite a bit. The price has actually gone up quite a bit since last year. It's like $224,000 now instead of $168,000. But basically, it needs to be done. If I can save money on that, like I said, a lot of this I plan on doing a lot of the work myself and the cleanup stuff and that stuff, but I've been kind of slowed down. But if we can save money on that by doing that, then I want to use the excess money on padded cell and kitchen upgrade. We've talked about a dire need to having an area to hold someone that is headbutting, the best way to say it, slamming their head in the wall. We've had a lot of fentanyl problems. We've had 3 people that I've had to put in a chair to restrain them so they didn't hit their head against the wall or run into the wall. So the padded cell would be great benefit. I can't remember the last guy that we needed before, but we had no way to hold him and keep him safe. Also exercise equipment to put out there. It's all stationary, non-moving, just
Fixed.
metal. But they're a total of $230,000. Uniform upgrade. I asked last time for firearms. Thank you to the county attorney's office. We were able to secure those. So that's off the list, but also uniform upgrade. The company that makes uniforms doesn't make them anymore. And I need about $10,000 to buy new uniforms on that. Taser upgrades, 14-year-old tasers. I've been keeping them going with used parts. The new tasers blew my mind when I priced them, $55,000 for a 4-year, 5-year contract, 4-year now. I paid for the first year. And duty leather, but that's $74,000. Then jail upgrades, the floor epoxy and cells need to be done. I did one part of it, but it needs to be redone already. I did that 9 years ago. But it's just getting old and worn. And replacing the carpet. The carpet's at least 15, 20 years old. So, also, we were able to secure, I asked for inmate equipment and blankets last time, but I didn't. I guess I'll give you guys a copy of these. But I was able to secure that. I need to ask, you said that the fund was allotted. When they bought the fire raiders, all the money was allotted or paid.
There was a certain amount of money allocated for that year, for last year.
And you don't know how much.
We don't
this
know
year.
how much of this year is going to be allocated.
The radios were like 200,000, so
they were more than that. I think they were more than that.
They were like 400,000. Yeah.
Rod and I talked about the alleyway and parking lot. Major work needs to be done to save them from total degradation. Thank you to the road department for coming in and patching a hole we were losing vehicles in. Stop some of that degradation. But all along the alley, along the sheriff's office, there is no asphalt. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I went through and dug it all out. We kept digging down and down and down. There's nothing between the sidewalk and the asphalt. So all the water goes there and actually goes underneath the sheriff's office. My generator's settling, sidewalks are settling.
Yep.
Things are getting worse. I pointed that out when I don't know how many years ago. I think it was 6 years ago when I did that. But I basically dug down and made a trench to go out, but it's all filled back in. But there's nothing but gravel between the asphalt and the concrete. So basically water goes there, percolates down underneath the building. So it's not good. The parking lot, it's like I said, what Rod and Drew did. We saved, I think, got us some time to keep it from going all the way out. I don't want to use those to take away from other projects. I believe that's a capital outlay. Also the roof, we need to address that from the 2016 hailstorm. Never been repaired, starting to get old. I've been able to patch a few places, but I had 3 leaks start with the cold weather. So I can't patch those until they get warm enough to patch them.
Is that a ballasted roof? Does it have rock on it? Or is it
rock? It's a membrane with rock. So you don't know where it's leaking at. I was able to find most of them. Like I said, with the cold snap, it caused them to start leaking again. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's burning ceiling tiles, and I got to go in and replace the ceiling tiles. I haven't priced those yet. Getting old.
Yep.
But that's what I have for my press. On another note, I just received a phone call from the CAC. They're doing a gun raffle in March or April. Child abuse. The CAC has been a huge supporter of us. I couldn't do my job. Police department couldn't do their job if they didn't help us. We do fund them, I think, $5,000 a year. I would like to use $1,000 out of the commissary to help this raffle, help them raise more money. They provide a service not just for us, but also if you see the van They're here constantly doing therapy after the fact. Had one young lady, she received therapy for almost 5 years, free of charge, because they support our community totally. And I think no better way to help fund them is through the funds from what the inmates, some of them child molesters, actually produced. If it's okay with you, I'd like to take $1,000 and donate that to their fund.
Brett, is that permissible to do that? I'm all for it.
Your approval.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll make a motion to allow him to do that, if we need that.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Go ahead and pass the all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed, so you can go ahead and.
Any questions about the other stuff?
Well, on all this other stuff, we're going to have to get roof bids and all that. We probably need to have like either EBH or Penco or somebody like that look at the parking lot and see what needs to be done there and see if you can do as far as the alley. I mean, that's technically a city alley. I think that's a conversation we need to have perhaps at a joint meeting or something. I don't know what all kind of agreements were made back in the day, but it really doesn't matter. If it needs repaired and rebuilt, so be it. If that has to be a joint
Is
deal.
it a city alley, even though it's county property?
I don't think it is.
If it's not a designated city alley anymore, then I guess it's on us.
We can look that.
Check that out, will you please? Yeah, either way. Got to be done. All right. Thank you.
I'm going to ask overhead and get some quotes on the roof.
Yep.
Do we still have those funds to repair it from the insurance?
I don't know.
It was paid.
It needs to be done, so.
We do it.
I asked for them, but I think they're going through the ownership change.
Yeah, and I guess if you have to, it'd be nice to get 2 or 3 different bids, but you're going to have to go out of town to do it.
Yeah.
But
I think we got
Roof Masters. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Mr. Emick, you want to be a department head so you can ask for.
You think I can request some funds?
You can request.
You can request all you want. No. I want to thank the department heads for the job that they're doing and taking care of us. It leaves us with some responsibilities to see what we have allocated to us and what we can do with those funds. So, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Well, Chrissy, come on back up.
I just wanted to visit with you guys about some leftover money that I had in the budget last year. It goes right back to the same project. So if we have to take last year's money and some of the grant money, whatever we need to do. But last I checked, it was around $30,000. That came from just not having a position filled. So I worked a lot of the shifts. Since I'm salary, then we didn't pay it out to anybody. So I feel like, if you would allow me to reserve those funds to spend out here at our backup site, I think that's the best use of that money if it's allowable. I can't remember if it was 35,000 or.
It won't be final until March, so we can
Right.
use 2022 funds until March. If you guys so allow, I have talked to Aaron, our auditor, and he said that we can create a line item within our capital reserves that would be central dispatch, whatever project you make.
Okay.
Which I feel like that gives me an incentive every year to work more and more shifts. If
There
we're
you
able
go.
to save that money, I mean, that's how I look at it. And then that will just better the project each time, which,
Sleep
that's what I
over.
normally do anyway,
Yeah.
but this gives us a really big incentive to do that. So
Well, then we will look at that to see if we can put it on a line item budget and go
We
from
have to
there.
just make sure that it's legal you know, to
Yeah.
to appropriately do that.
Yes.
To move
We'll
it
make
around.
sure the auditors and everybody.
Have you done with carryover money in the past?
I was thinking Ryan did that with the pickup, but maybe not.
Yeah, he did. So in the past though, any funds that are within the gen, that money just goes over as a gen cash carryover overall as a cash balance, not individualized per each department.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask you to earmark it for us, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe I'll start a trend. Maybe all the departments will,
There you go.
if they're able.
I think
I don't want to take away that extra
Right.
position that we have because I fought really, really hard to get that for a couple of years.
Right.
If I can fill it, I absolutely will because that takes a lot of burden off of us. But we are able to operate safely with the number of people we have now. But yeah, so, as you saw, I think this is around, let's just say ballpark of 100,000 for these big ticket items. That the additional money, if we can hold that over, I mean, there's quite a few things that I still need, but I'm not going to purchase those unless I have key elements to the backup site. Otherwise, there's no purpose in it. So,
right.
That makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Albright.
Every 5 years, we have to go through a Medicare revalidation. It is the 11th year for EMS, so we are revalidating again. I need signatures from you three. Primarily, it's appointing you three as the authorized individuals on our Medicare contract, Medicare record. I'm listed as a delegated official because I'm typically the one filling this out and adding Brian as the EMS chief as a delegated official as well. So I just need signatures.
Good.
Brett, you good on that?
Yep.
Okay.
Need all three of us or?
Well, in different places. So starting off with you, sign, title, date, please. This one is authorizing me to be delegated.
Okay.
This one is authorizing Brian to be delegated as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you and I spoke about these, we talked about if we could just designate Commissioner Chairman, since that position may change or whatever, but it has to be a designated person. It can't be a title. Is that right?
Yes. Hold on 1 second. Rod, this is yours as an authorized.
Okay.
Date. 17th.
All day unless it snows. It might.
Steve. That's all I needed.
Okay. I guess we're ready for Rhonda to come in. That's okay. We're just now looking for you. I want to take a short break.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, how are you? Good. How are you?
Well, right, okay. Living the dream.
Hey, I'm with you today. That fog, it was just, I left Dodge. I had half an hour because I thought I might hit it. I didn't think I was going to hit it. I
Really?
got south of Oakley and it was like, it's,
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's miserable to drive in.
so I, you know, it's, then I got, I-70, a little bit better. But I'm still going like 45.
Yep.
I get to Colby and it's like I drive out of town. So I made it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're getting close to open enrollment, so I just wanted to go back through a few things, run past you guys. And
Get close to your microphone, please.
on it, Stephen, I always forget that.
Did you call order back in order?
No, I just took a recess.
Okay. Okay.
Am I ready then, Stephen?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sound like the
Yeah.
cell phone
Yeah.
commercial.
Yep.
A couple of things. We're pretty well set. You know, we've got our renewal process. We've got paperwork going on that. So we're looking at doing open enrollment meetings the last week of the month, either the first couple of days or the last couple of days of the week. We just need to finalize some details. So there's a couple of things that we have been looking at and had a meeting with Andy Thayer from Benablock. And we have several counties that we've been working with and other groups that we're using Benablock for the administrative side. And let me kind of fill you in on how that works. For one thing, you know, they work with benefits, which would be our voluntary benefits, would need to be moved from your current vendor to them. They do all of our enrollments electronically. They feed all of that information to Blue Cross and to all the carriers. So they have that technology piece. And then also a consolidated billing that would come to the county for all the benefits except Blue Cross.
So instead of having several vendors, like our Vision Care Direct and the Aflac and the voluntary life and all those things, even our group life is consolidated on one billing. So just kind of flip through this little packet with me. Again, they're licensed in insurance as well, so that helps us if they're communicating benefits to people. They make sure that everyone is contacted. It gives them an onboarding resource for the clerk's office to basically send them to them. They'll go through all the benefits either in person or they'll do a virtual call, whatever is needed to meet those needs. The representative that we would be working with is a VP for them, and he is out of Hayes. So we're not, you know how I'm a little bit picky because people always say they're going to come out even to many parts of Western Kansas, whether it's Southwest or Northwest, and they never show up. But this is a person who is from Hayes, and they have a team that would come out, do our open enrollment, be there at open enrollment to meet with each person. They will be looking at benefits that are comparable to what you have currently with, I think they're looking at Allstate is the company that they're wanting to put those benefits with. So it's a well-known company. They'll have several different options for employees to pick from that will be either enhanced or similar to what they have. If they choose a benefit, they will enroll them right there on the spot, just like they would any other benefit. The piece that I like with it is also the compliance side, the HIPAA compliance. That way everything is electronically signed or on file. If anyone ever says they were not offered a benefit, you have the backup. Also, it's getting that information to the carrier quicker. So everything is set and ready to go for payroll when Ashley and Maria are ready to do that. That information is in the consolidated bill. It comes to you all once a month. They do all the terms. They put people on the COBRA. They put people on the flexible spending account. All of those pieces are all done by them.
So how did we come to this? What was the driving?
What is driving this is the technology side, Rod, just to make things a little bit cleaner, and also having that documentation that everyone has, had that benefit explained to them and gone through. And I think that's important. And I'll give you an example. At the city of Greensburg, we've had them there a couple of years now. We had an employee who swore that they had enrolled in something because of a medical condition that came up. And again, they have the phone call recorded of him declining and so on and so forth. So there was nothing that ended that situation immediately. Yeah. Doesn't happen very often, but I also think, again, it gives you access to everything online 24/7. You can go in and they post the booklets that we provide to all of your staff. We're still going to help them on claims and those kinds of things. But if I have a voluntary benefit claim, they're helping that person complete that claim form as well. So they would call in and say, hey, I have an accident claim. They'll get them the form, help them fill out as much as they possibly can on it, and tell them, now this is the pieces that you're missing. So it's a cleaner claim going in. I've not had that from any voluntary benefit companies where they are, really sitting down with people and doing that. And I think, again, they have multiple benefits that can be put in place, such as a whole life product that people can take with them when they leave if they want to, that has some long-term care benefits on it. So it gives them maybe some newer benefits. Also, they have the opportunity to look at multiple companies. If we decide that that benefit is not competitive or something like that, we can also make those changes as needed. What I found is people pretty well set with who they have. Again, since they're well-known companies like Allstate, Mutual of Omaha, who we have for our life and disability here. So there's several different carriers, I would say multiple, that they can look at. Cigna options, Chubb options. They basically go back and find an option that is best priced and that will work where we're at. And again, some of those companies are bigger and their benefits may not be as user-friendly because we like to be hands-on.
How does this factor into dollars and cents for
There you go. That's my next piece, Rod.
Okay.
I know you and your money.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I'm the same way. Basically, they do not have commissioned reps either. So let me explain that to you. They are on salary. They're an employee of the company. So when their book of business through their whole company, they are paid through the companies for putting their product out there. And then they pay each employee just like a regular employee. So there's no pressure. I sat down because I'm a little bit picky, this guy had worked with me two years trying to get to any of my clients. But I actually went to an open enrollment and listened to a presentation. And this was at a hospital in Elkhart, actually. It was a hospital there. And an employee came in and said, this guy said, I've got to have more life insurance. I want my kids taken care of. Something had happened recently in his family. And he said, I've got to have more life insurance for my kids. And his kids are all grown. So I listened kind of while I'm doing notes on the notepad. And he said, well, why do you think you need, he's not, again, commissioned. Do you have life insurance? The hospital has some for you. He went through the whole thing. And he said, but I don't have enough. I want my kids well taken care of. And he actually said, you know what? Why don't you go home and get everything and come back in tomorrow? And I'll go through it with you. If you think you need more life insurance, I'm happy to help you with that. But again, he's also looking at the age of this person, all of these things, taking these things into consideration. And so he comes back the next day with, again, I had a meeting at the county there, so I went back over to the hospital. And he brought everything in. And he went through everything with him. And he said, you don't need any additional life insurance. And he goes, you're right, I don't. Because he went through it and took that time.
No.
And I don't hear that from very many voluntary companies or who are doing that because they're commissioned for one thing.
Right.
It's all about the next sale. But it's the human side. And it's the other pieces of, again, helping people with their benefits if needed. We want those calls to come to us. But if they happen to be talking to somebody, hey, I have this accident claim, and they have a question, they are licensed to also look at our benefits and say, you know what, you need to call Blue Cross. This is the number, and they probably are missing a form. They have enough information and have been doing this for long enough that they can lead somebody where they need to be or back to us. And we're always happy for it to come back to us. But again, just making sure there's more access whenever it works for them, because they can, get on the phone, call, they can look it up online. We have, and Ashley, you were part of that when we looked at the technology piece a few years ago. And what we found with working a little bit with Sherman County, it's very cumbersome, the one that we were looking at, without having an IT staff to just do that. We can't afford that. We get the IT piece that we didn't have or, aren't going to be putting in unless we put a whole IT team in, not just for our day-to-day, but basically a programmer and all of that in place through this company, which speeds up the process for you all. Okay. And again, there's not any cost to you. The employees, whatever they buy, right, their whole book of business across the country is what the company's paid on. Aflac is one of the few companies that has actual representatives out there. Most of these companies don't. They're just offered through employer groups. And if you don't have someone presenting them, they don't end up with a lot of business. And so as they're growing that book of business, they've partnered with companies like Benablock. And I've known two of the owners for a long time. So even though it took me 2 years to put them in a group because I wanted to eavesdrop and listen and see and find out if they're responsive. So been very pleased with their service. We've had them at Pawnee County. We just finished up open enrollments there. Trying to think. I'm still in this panic from December. We're still cleaning up Blue Process renewals from the end of the year. Barber County, several others that I can list for you that we have with them, and quite a few hospitals.
So this is a decision we need to make right now.
Well, I think it would be a good idea so we can proceed and get this year going and make those presentations to your staff.
Ashley, this is something you've reviewed and you feel like it's a good deal?
Yep, after Rhonda brought the representative from Hayes out, and Maria and I sat down with them, and we like it. It'll be really streamlined, and it'll allow employees to have a portal to see all their information, make changes if they want to at any time. They don't have to come in here. So.
And that change does come in and have to be approved by the clerk's office so that they know to put it in their your payroll system and those kinds of things. But if I'm at home in the evening or something and I need to add a dependent, I could quickly do that. I've had a baby, and, that kind of thing. So
It'll make things streamlined, and especially where there's no cost. I don't.
No, why not do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd make a motion to add the Bennett block.
Been moved that we add the banner block benefit with the PIC company.
One second.
Any other discussion?
I think so.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's passed.
okay. Then I want to go back to the ambulance benefit that we talked about last time. I have recently been in a meeting with Nate Brown on the AirMed, and there's been some significant positive changes. So before we sign any paperwork, I'd like to suggest that he come in and visit with you.
Okay.
And again, I'm looking at cost, but I'm also looking at some of the positive changes that have happened with the addition of lots
And
of
Nate Brown's with
AirMed.
AirMed, Transair.
EagleMed, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, and he's been with them for, 10 years. plus.
Yes, he's been.
And
quite a
I know
few.
you guys, he's come out and been at several
Yeah.
meetings with us. And, our concern was we had 2 and losing 1. But I'm not sure we need 2. So
Right.
I would like you to evaluate that situation and make a decision before we sign any paperwork. If that's okay with you all.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay. So I'll get with Ashley and see if when we can get Nate up here to let, if we don't quite have that ready for open enrollment, I think that's okay, just because I want you to make the right decision for what you guys are comfortable with.
Okay.
Again, I know, our rates weren't quite where we want and we're paying a little bit more. So if we need to, great. But if you feel we don't, you're saving that money as well. So,
Okay.
All right. So we'll take a look at that. I'll get with Nate and get him on the schedule. And so what will happen with Aflac is basically those plans, they will, work to move those to Beneblock and Allstate. And anyone who's had a prior condition who can also keep that Aflac if they'd like and be billed at home. So they don't necessarily lose it at that point. So just to reassure you that we're not going to leave them uncovered if they've had a medical condition that won't allow them to make a change.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So I think those were the main things. I just felt if we could chat, it would
Okay.
just take a little bit and we'll get things going forward and get Nate up here and let you guys make your final, make a decision for sure, which if we want to add the other one or not.
Okay.
They're growing quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel a little uneasy about, do we really need to? I mean, the out of country travel is one thing. The number of people in the household and who's living in your household makes a difference. And it doesn't with one or the other. So I'm going to stay out of the part that I'm not the expert in and let the resident expert come up and chat. That's okay.
I remember Nate's out of Waukene, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I appreciate your time, guys. And
All right.
see, I was thinking, Rod, about that money thing.
That's why
It's
we got
easy,
you.
it's easy to make a decision when the cost is like that.
Exactly.
I think the ease that I've seen too from it, just for the administrative side, for the offices, it's really helped their workload a little bit.
Yep.
Just having somebody, you shoot an email and let them take care of it. Got other things to do. Let them do what they do and let you do what you do best. All right. Well, thank you for your time, guys, and I apologize for being late.
You were.
I knew
you
the
had
call
worked
was
in.
out there, so I left a half an hour early.
It worked perfect because one of our groups lasted a lot longer, and so you walked in just perfect on time. So.
All right. Well, hey, I'll go with that.
Okay. Thank
Have
you.
a good week.
Thank you.
Okay, we have tax roll corrections. We have the first one is failure to defy, the penalty's been reduced. And then we have an income increase, adjustment made to property damage and not previously recognized. Damage to improvements. Okay,
Damage to improvement.
that's, I adjustment made to property damage not previously recognized.
Well, apparently she knows what this means.
Yeah, that's the way I go see Michelle and ask her if that's what.
I make a motion to approve the tax roll changes.
Okay, you need numbers? Okay, first one, 2023-04. 5 zeros in between the 04, 02, 03, and 01. Been moved. Do I hear a second? We approve the tax roll corrections.
One second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the tax roll corrections. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved.
Did anyone have any questions on accounts payable?
I did not see any, but I didn't get a real good look at them this time.
There was one that was like $1,000 to Smoky in there for it.
Yeah.
What was that for?
Smoky Gardens. I think that was,
Distributions?
no, I think that was community development.
Oh, deposit for the shindig at the Smoky.
Yep.
Event.
Okay.
That will be in the
Yep. I would make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $107,502.25.
There a second?
One second.
Been moved and second. We pay the bills. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Then we finish. Okay.
Did you guys sign the report for the checks?
I have, you need to, these guys need to.
Okay.
If I don't sound I can deny, can I?
You can, I guess. I don't know if it's doing any good.
Okay, we have a lease here between the county and Northwest Kansas Technical College. They're wanting on June the 2nd through the 4th for rental of the fairgrounds. And this must be they have their liability insurance here. And this is for endowment fund. Do I hear a motion we approve this?
It says as long as none interfere with anything Williams got going on.
I think we're good.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Been moved and seconded. We approve the lease with the Tech College for the endowment on the 2nd through the 4th of June. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Just for clarification, in the past, there was a couple of occasions where the courthouse was closed due to weather. How's that decision made? And who makes it?
I make that decision. Ashley calls me or Rod calls me.
Okay.
And I think the one was on the real cold day.
Yep.
And then the other one was on was it a snow day or? I think it's just that one real cold day.
One we closed early.
Yeah, one was
because
an
snow came
early.
there,
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the next one was the really cold day.
And like Mr. Roeder said, well, really doesn't affect the road and bridge because if it's a snow day, they're out anyway, cleaning the roads. So it would be the rest of the county.
Okay, so when that happens and everybody goes home, okay, how's that? Are they required to use sick days or vacation pay, or how's that being done?
It's been paid as admin pay because it isn't their choice that it has been closed. If you guys want to do that differently, we just need to know that.
Okay. Well, no, I've had it, not with the county, but I've had it be a conversation where, these guys get to go, they get to go home, but we got to stay out here and work. It's like, yeah, I get it, but yeah, maybe that's a conversation for later. We can discuss that and we get into policies and that type of thing. I just wonder how that went down. Okay.
Do you want actually to call you and Harvey?
Well, I mean, that's just, I don't know. I mean, I know we had this conversation once, and one of the commissioners said, well, there's people from out, that live out in the county that come to town. They think they're going to do business only to find the place is closed.
Right.
So obviously there's circumstances that play into everything, but it's just something to think about for the future. I guess we need to talk about it. For now, I guess we'll just keep rolling the way we are.
Okay. Yeah. And I think if in the future, if we get that, and I have a question on it, I'll have actually get in contact with you gentlemen to verify. The one on the cold day, I don't think there's much else going on in the county anyway because it was froze up.
Yeah,
so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I would just point out, and Bert reminded me, that if you're going to choose to discuss, you can't necessarily have Ashley call everybody. That's a chain link. So you would need to call a special meeting if that's how you want to do it. Right now, Steve has the authority to make that decision.
Yep.
If you all want to be in, but you'll have to call a special meeting to discuss it and make a decision, closed or not.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Steve, don't call.
Don't call.
Just make the
Just make the decision. Go grab the flagpole, and if your hand doesn't come free, it's time to go home.
Time to go.
Okay.
Just when we need more special meetings.
Okay, I have a request here from Mr. Browniger of the Fire Department, EMS.
Must be grant stuff. Huh?
It's a transfer of property agreement for Task Force 7.
Oh, okay.
And they're transferring $5,170.80 worth of equipment. Is this coming from the Homeland Security Council?
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Okay, please.
Since Harvey's new, I can't remember how long, but for 15 years or so, I've been the Sherman County representative on the Homeland Security Council. And what that is we meet usually quarterly. Some money comes down from the federal government, and this council sits down and decides, much like the ARPA funds, okay, what's the best use of this funding for our region? So what Mr. Browninger has been doing is we have a search and rescue team, one of which is based in Sherman County that serves the region, and then the other team is in Hayes. Kind of splits the region, and that way there's equipment and trained professionals with throughout the region. And so each time grant funding comes through, we purchase the equipment through the council, and then it's transferred to Sherman County through one of these agreements. So that equipment doesn't cost us anything. We're just assuming the responsibility for it more or less.
Thank you.
And there's a list here of what, and I know you should have got a email from Chief James that Task Force 7 was called out to go to Hayes and had a positive outcome from that one. So do I hear a motion to transfer from to Task Force 7 the items listed?
I'll make that motion.
Been moved. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second it.
Been moved and second. We transfer the items from Homeland to the Task Force 7. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Okay. This is our audit agreement between Von Pelt, Bauer and Von Pelt for next year's audit, or this year's audit, I should say this year's audit.
Last year's audit done this year.
Okay.
That's to approve last year's audit done this year.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Been moved. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. We accept contract with Von Pelt, Bauer and Von Pelt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
How often does the county typically go out for bids on audit companies? I mean, when's the last time that was ever done? Forever.
Is this what Scott's name, isn't it?
Bonfelt. There's more to it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. I'm just kind of curious as to how long we've been with them.
I think with you a little bit, I think we need to look.
Yeah, I think it's always good to kind of do that once in a while. See how competitive the pricing is. Sometimes everybody just gets comfortable.
Yeah. Here's the fire board minutes. Fire board minutes from They're looking to try to get the ambulance back in at Henrietta or at Brewster, and that would be through the Thomas County EMS. I think we don't need to make a motion on any of the fire board stuff. Okay. Have I missed anything, Ashley?
So back on the Smoky Gardens deal, Brett, their attorneys are making some changes. Are you aware of anything that's
I don't
been
think there's
done?
any changes being made to the MOU that was previously approved, because that was the original one they said. We requested additional language, quick claim deed that ensures continued use of the water.
One piece of mail. It's just a newsletter from the Sherman County Historical Society. Talking about the sale of the handy house. What they've done with it. Anything else that needs to be brought before the commission at this time? If not, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.